Kendra Irene McCarthy. This sermon is for you. This sermon is also for Lily Endo and Kaya Ziegler, who will come after you. It is for the numerous children and youth who are being raised up in the context of this congregation. It is for your parents, your godparents, your grandparents. It is for each and every person in this congregation, extending out into the world. This sermon is for every child who has been bullied or put down. It is a sermon that is for anyone who hasn't quite fit into the mold that our society creates. Whether you are non-white, Anglo-Saxon, Caucasian, in a country that still holds on to this image of that being the majority. It is for those who don't fit neatly into a box of gender and gender conforming. It is a sermon for those who struggled at some point in their life or are struggling now with something that sets them apart, outside of the norm, feeling different, cast off, at times alone. You see, as we come to the scriptures this day, there is this powerful and incredible story about an Ethiopian eunuch. This one who has been living in probably what is now actually part of the Sudan, and has made his way into Jerusalem to be present. Someone who is tied to the tradition of faith, of Judaism, showing up at the temple, not being able to get in, being fenced out by the rules and the rites and the rituals, being told that he's not quite good enough, being told that he's not whole. You see, very likely early on in his teenage years, this eunuch was castrated to make him more valuable within the court, to make him more trustworthy. And yet, in terms of a connection with God and the holy, it has cast him off, leaving him perhaps alone and isolated. And as we encounter this eunuch today, he is riding in a chariot. We know that he is gifted beyond belief, likely someone with incredible intelligence, having been put in charge of the whole of the treasury of the Candace, the queen. This is someone who is gifted and entrusted. Yet here he is reading one of the passages about the suffering servant. And I cannot help but imagine that this Ethiopian eunuch, where we really love a name to give to him, but this Ethiopian eunuch is there struggling, hearing these words, and perhaps wondering, is this me? Am I the one who has been cast away from God? Who is in this place of suffering and challenge? This one who can't get into the holies of holy in my place of worship? Who is cast off by communities who don't understand, who don't get? So reading this text, sitting there, perhaps heart-filled, not so much in the words, but knowing that there is a God who relates. A God who connects and understands the pain and the suffering in our lives. And then one of these disciples, apostles, shows up, Philip, and is invited into this journey in Scripture and begins to have a conversation with this eunuch. Wondering, as the eunuch asks, "Who is the scripture about? Tell me, fill me, let me know. Is this God with me?" And Philip begins to unpack the scriptures, sharing the story. I want to believe also listening intently to the life that is there in this one traveling back to Ethiopia. And unpacking the life of Jesus, this one who has come among humanity, that has touched our deepest and most wondrous joys, but also has experienced the most incredible heartbreak and betrayal, who knows the pains of physical body, of losing friends, of all of the experience that make us human. And talks specifically about how God in Jesus the Christ has come among us to proclaim a word of hope in the midst of all that we are. In that moment, the eunuch hears. And hears that perhaps that Holy of Holies and that gated place in the temple in Jerusalem isn't where he's supposed to be after all. That he is going back filled with this incredible sense that God is there with him and in him, abiding. He has become an abiding place, and he asks a powerful question, saying, "There is water. What is to prevent me from being baptized?" Have you ever wondered yourself? Most of us as Lutherans don't get the opportunity to ask that question. We're brought to the font as children. But every Sunday we are invited into this time of renewal, of thanksgiving for our baptism, of being reconnected with the Holy One. We are invited into a conversation in which we can hear and experience God raining down upon us and taking us, no matter what have been the pains of the week, the places where we have struggled, and saying, "God, are you there? What is to prevent me from being in a deeper and fuller relationship with you?" And the answer comes back every single time we ask it: nothing. Absolutely nothing. That God is with you and for you and among you and will not let you go. And so here in this moment, we have the eunuch going out, getting into this body of water, this stream, this pond,